indeed very glad to be here today. I thank very dearly our colleagues at IUM, with grateful for the great things that you are doing over there. Well done. I will be presenting, and I've requested Melba to thank you very, very much for sharing the slide. Thank you very much for sharing the slide. I believe you can all hear me. I believe you can all hear me.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, son.
All right. Thank you very much. My topic is entitled Increasing the Patronage of Library in the Era of Seeming Alternatives, the case study of Ajayi Crowther University Law Library. We just want to look at the model, and I've been introduced already. I work with Ajayi Crowther University in Nigeria. Nigeria is currently Africa's most populous nation, with over 200 million people. It is also reported that the richest African is a Nigerian. Whether that has translated into the betterment of lives of people in general will be a discussion for another day. Next slide. I work as a law librarian, and because I work in the law library, I have a background in law, so I'm also a lawyer. And these are my wonderful patrons using the space in the library. And this will give you an idea of what the library is in the era of alternatives. In the past, as an undergraduate, we would fill the library to the brim. But today, many of our users have alternatives, and then they would rather choose to use those facilities outside rather than coming to the library. The question is, to what extent are we going to still be relevant if our users stop using our resources? Next slide, please. So that justifies why we must keep evolving. So my presentation will be structured along this line. The background, where are we? The alternatives, my university model, the future ahead, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we are doing with Association of African Law Library and Information Professionals, and then I'll conclude. So to begin with, the study of the law library, the study of law, next slide, please. The study of law is library-based. As a result of that, it is important that you must have the law library if you must produce people who will be seasoned lawyers. In Nigeria, the regulatory bodies often insist that you must have a law library, not just a law library, it must be separate from other libraries. It must be uniquely situated within the Faculty of Law before you can be given accreditation to mount a law degree. And you must ensure that these libraries keep running. And you must, for you to retain your accreditation status, you must ensure that you keep supporting these law libraries. Now, what is of concern is that despite the fact that universities continue to commit a lot of resources into the management of the law libraries, the patronage continues to dwindle. Now, many of our users would no longer want to come to the law library. So next slide, please. And that would justify the need for our conversation today. Now, in my library, there's a drastic reduction in the use of physical visit into the library. And even our e-resources are, they are not so used. And I'll give you reasons very shortly. Because the usage cannot be, because the number of persons who use the resource would require it has been very difficult convincing the management to keep supporting the law library. And therefore, there is myself and a few of our colleagues started losing our relevance in the system because people no longer use our resources. Next slide. So, and the reason for this, well, because what we had to do was to conduct a baseline study. We had a focus group discussion with our users, and we observed that they were so confident that they had availability of options of resources which they could explore online. And many of them would even prefer to use these free resources in the era of the overload. And we also saw that some of them felt that some of their teachers may not have the time to want to verify the sources that they are giving. So they would rather decide to, in fact, I just read an assignment and the person confessed to me that, Mr. Pangoshe, ChatGPT did the magic for me. So they have a feeling that their generation is smarter and they can use resources that their lecturers may not be willing to verify. Next slide. So, in view of the fact that our library was almost losing its relevance, we had to think of what could be done. Please. Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Thank you very much. So in view of the seeming challenge of reduction in the number of our users, we had to reevaluate our goals. We had to sit down to look at it that how can we continue to be relevant? And so we did what some politicians will call a state of emergency. And then we saw the need to make deliberate efforts that will start bringing back our users. The first step that we did after having had a kind of conversation was to look at some of our strict rules that discourage users. Some of them would include, for example, the use of headphones in the library, bringing in drinks and food items in the library, and what have you. So what we had to do was to provide a designated location where you could actually treat yourself. You could eat if you needed to eat. We also made sure that we allowed students to do certain activities. They could use their headphone in the library. They could have a private discussion at certain designated places. So many of them started having that sense of belonging, that the library is not as strict as it used to be. Next slide, please. So beyond the relaxation of some of our laws, we had to engage in a proper reorientation of our front desk officers and reference librarians, because these are persons who often have interactions with the users, with our end users. So we had to educate them on the need to be professional in their doing, and for them to realize the fact that we need to retain the confidence of our users. So we had to do that. Then the library also, the law library took over the teaching of the component of the use of law library in our curriculum. And I have the privilege of taking that course. One of the things we emphasized in that course is on the need for skills acquisition rather than being examined for exam purpose. And right from the word go, we make them realize the need why they needed to use the law library. The law library is the teaching of law is voluminous. You need to use the library to learn the language of the law. You need a library to be able to get some precedents that you can use in your matters. You need the law library to be able to, as a meeting point between those who excel in the study of law and those and upcoming lawyers. So we made all of these things available. And I also made it in a way that a smart student would know that that is a question that is likely to come out every year, because I just want to be sure that they know the reason why they need to use the law library. And these has changed some of the narratives, that some of the bad narratives which we had. We went to the point also of rendering some other services that some of our users will find useful. One of it will be calls for grants. We try to bookmark some of the research areas of our faculty members. We would send them opportunities for conferences, for paper presentations, and also for some of our students. And it made them to start gravitating back towards the library, because they knew that if it comes to some of these opportunities, the library would always give them. And if you ask us, how do we get to do this? We just subscribe to listserv, and anytime there are conference opportunities and the rest, we receive emails. This is the same email that we share to our users. Next slide, please. So now these are some of our users in some of our trainings, educating them on the need to use the library. Incidentally, this picture was taken about 4 years ago. The students are now graduating in the university as we speak. Next slide. Now, this was one of the sessions where we had to orientate some of our colleagues, particularly the library officers, those are the front desk officers, on the need for them to change their approach, and that we had to tell them that their services must be user-centric. Next slide, please. So now, more than ever, our users are also involved in selection process of items to be procured. And this has given them also confidence in the process. In fact, we have a big register. Beyond that, we have also included them in the library committee, so they are involved in the sharing of materials. Then we also provide certain services that are not available in the library. Now, in the part of the world where I come from, for example, electricity supply is not regular. So the library tries to ensure that there is electricity in the library for a larger part of the working hours, and that alone would bring some of our users to come to the library, some with intention of charging their gadgets. But while they're in the library, they consult our materials too. We also we encourage faculty members to give assignments that are library-based. The assignments that the resources can only be procured from the library. So these are some of the things that we've been doing. Now, in the next slide, I'll move into what has been the outcome of this effort. The first thing that we can see is that we are beginning to have more confidence in the use of the library. Now, in terms of our patronage, because we have a register and it has increased by 100%, we are not where we want to be, but we believe there are still potentials. Now, also, the use of the login details for our e-resources, the demand for it has increased, which means that our users now have more confidence in the resources that the library subscribes to, as against their hitherto belief of using free resources online. Next slide. So we also saw that because the university monitors what is happening, we now have increased support from the university management, and we have some of our colleagues too, who are now encouraged by increasing patronage to be willing to even sacrifice, some willing to stay beyond their usual time in attending to users. Now we are beginning to have some donations in the library, some donations to the library, some from users. But for me, what is most gratifying is that sense of satisfaction that we are able to meet the needs of our users. But I tell you, there are much more potentials that we can benefit over time. So I move to the next set of my presentation, which will be done within 2-3 minutes. And that will tell you, now these are some of the activities that we've been doing over time. So the next slide, please. So I want to speak very briefly on the need for collaboration and our experience from the law library perspective. I begin by saying that the need for collaboration among African law librarians led to the establishment of what we call AFLIP. AFLIP is Association of African Law Library and Information Professionals, which was, the idea was conceptualized in the year 2016. Next slide. This was during a conference. I presented a paper at IFLA conference at Ohio, Columbus. By the way, the meeting was funded not by my university, which was externally funded. Next slide. And during the course of the conversation, this person to my right, sorry, to my left, the man, sorry, to the right now, Darlington, from Zimbabwe, we met at the conference and we had extensive conversation as to why we need to have the African equivalent of Law Library Association, because that is what is available in other parts of the world. And this conversation, I mean, to my left now is was the president of the Law Library section of IFLA, and that conversation eventually culminated into the establishment of Association of African Law Library and Information Professionals. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, which was established, which was established in 2018, and then we have continued to use that platform to develop our skills. And through that platform, for example, we have mentorship programs through which we empower some of our members who have not been benefiting from writing of grants and opportunity to participate in meetings. Will help them to support the application. And in the last 3 years, we have seen a higher number of our members getting grants to participate at meetings and then coming back to share the knowledge when they return. Next slide. So one of the things that AFLIP is also trying to do is to see how we can have knowledge disseminated on legal information throughout the continent of Africa. There's a project that University of Cape Town is managing, African legal information system, and this has helped in a lot. And we talked about collaboration. Personally, I got to know much about this as a member of the AFLIP program, and there's a personal project that African is embarking upon, which I tend to benefit from. And that will tell you the benefit of collaboration. Now, on this project is a particular fund which is given to volunteer. And I tell you, because I manage this, I serve as volunteer for the University of Cape Town on this project. Now, I have an allowance, and the allowance, because of the exchange rate, tends to even give me an income that is far more than my salary in Nigeria. So for me, I have income from two sides. And that's one of the benefits that collaboration can give to you. But more importantly is the fact that I'm also attracting visibility to my institution. So as part of the institutional benefits, one is the visibility that you attract to your university. Secondly, there are certain facilities that my university would have because my university is hosting the project. Upon the completion of that project, those facilities will remain with the university. So there is no gainsaying the fact that there is a need for African librarians to continue to collaborate. Next slide, which I believe is my last slide. So the library will continue to exist when it is able to constantly evolve. And we must strive to constantly and regularly engage and ensure that our users' needs are met at all times. As a typical 21st century librarian, if we do not engage and collaborate, we may lose our relevance. I thank you so much for your rapt attention. I am glad to welcome comments and contributions at the end of the presentations. Thank you very much.
Contributions, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, before we give the floor to our last speaker. I'm even more interested in knowing and learning more about the partnership so that I can also have, I can create visibility by earning again another extra income. Any contributions from the presentation? We have the feedback form that I have shared in the chat box. I think we should take time to just give feedback on our experiences for this session. Did I share it? Okay, yes. Just share it again. Any questions, any contributions before? Okay. Ms. Samoro, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Melbourne. Thank you to Mr. Olodayo for such a beautiful presentation. I don't have a question, but I just want to say the situation that he presented is not just unique to his library. I think most of our libraries are undergoing the same situation where you see you have less users, even the e-resources that we are trying to provide, people are not using them as we expect. So I think it's a good learning opportunity that he just presented to us to say, we need to take time actually to reflect on what is happening. And this is taking us back to the statistics that we collect as well. So we need to analyze, why is the situation happening the way it's happening, and what can be done, to correct the situation if there's a need, or otherwise we will all be irrelevant in our institutions, because people have so many options actually to go to. And in the past we used to say, we have well evaluated information that we felt like people are attracted to that, but people are more satisfied with what they can get elsewhere, and they can get it faster actually. So we all just need to take time and evaluate how things are happening and see what measures we can put in place actually. So that's just the contribution I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nambunya. Anyone? Colleagues? Yeah, fine. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. That's from Malaysia, eh? Malawi? Oh, Goodwill. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.